Alright guys, so this time we're going to try another Zero motorcycle. This time it's an SRF, which is different. And I know from the SRS, there's actually, check this out, put my phone in my wallet, as long as I don't forget it. Turn it on. Alright, here we go. So I talked to the guy on this one. This is actually pretty much the same MSRP. Let's see, you have to put the kickstand up. Ooh, check this out. Look at that. Can you see that? That is a life changer right there. It seems like on a lot of the mid controls, I'm ready to go. Yeah. Seems like on a lot of the mid controls, I was accidentally flip up the kickstands. All right, so we're gonna go. I think, yeah, we got power, which is weird. So this is an electric motorcycle, automatic, and we are in eco mode. So no clutch lever, no shifter, completely automatic. Look at the mirrors on this one. The mirrors are up versus on the SRS, they were actually really down low, which is pretty wild. I was looking at the price difference on these. He said it was about a $500 difference, almost exactly the same, right about $21,000 on the SRF versus the SRS. And they said this is kind of their Street Fighter version of this motorcycle. Oh, one thing, wait, I'm not ready. I don't have my glasses. Oh my goodness. Wait. I forgot my glasses. All right, I'm ready. All right, so I almost messed that up. I was like, wait a minute, I can't see very good. Here we go, completely silent. Oh, so my legs are actually up quite a bit, maybe a little bit higher on this, seems like. I don't know. So it'd be interesting to see the difference between them. So far it seems pretty similar. The turning on this is a little bit different. So it seems like, I don't know if this has a thinner front tire, but it seems like a little bit more squirrely, I guess you'd say, a little bit easier to turn. On this one, it's just gonna, let's see. So I'm on a different bike here. All right. So it's just kind of weird being on an electric motorcycle because you don't hear anything. You don't have to worry about gears or shifting or anything. So normally they do like, so that's kind of interesting. On this one, it has less super slow speed stability than the SRS. Super fast, just like the other one. The other one was super fast too. I'm almost getting confident enough with these Zero motorcycles to get out of eco mode. So they were saying on the eco mode, you don't have quite the acceleration like in the sport mode, and they were also saying that you don't have the engine braking in sport mode. So the engine braking, ooh, it seems like the back brakes aren't very good on this. I was like, where's the brakes? All right. Super fast, super smooth. I can feel it seems like a little bit more road vibration on this one compared to the SRS. All these abbreviations. The SRS is the one that I just took out last time. Well, that was my first Zero motorcycle. This one you're still kind of leaned over forward, where on the last one it seemed like I had maybe some fatigue on my hands when I got off that bike. And the funny thing is my rear end doesn't hurt, and the seat seems to be really super hard. And this actually has the same kind of really severe engine braking as the SRS. So you almost don't even need brakes until you pull up to your final last few feet of a stop. which is pretty wild. But yeah, you can definitely tell this one's a little bit more squirrely. Not really unstable, just it almost feels like it has a thinner tire on the front. Where, you know, sometimes with a thinner tire, it's a little bit more. It turns with a lot less. Let's see. Let me see if I can figure out these blinkers. So they're not auto-off blinkers like Harley Davidson's. You have to turn the blinker on, and then after you turn, you kind of have to fumble around to turn the blinkers off, which I'm not familiar with on my Harley Davidson. Always turns the blinkers off for me. So of course you can't hear any engine. There's no heat on these bikes, like engine heat that you'd feel, that I felt anyways. I could definitely feel that bump in my rear end. Ooh, it's starting to rain a little bit. Let's see. So what else can I tell you about this bike? The funny thing is I don't know, I'm starting to get used to these, but when I first got on these bikes, it was almost like it felt a little bit scary, just because it feels like a really small bike with so much power and almost a comfort which is beyond what you'd expect. So, you know, on a small bike that's really fast with a lot of comfort, it almost seems like once you get used to the bike, you might push it a little more than you normally would. Maybe beyond your ability. I don't know. Wow, this thing can really move. So I'm tempted to move it out of eco mode, just for kicks. Maybe once we slow down up here, I'll try to move it out of eco mode. To get it out of eco mode, you have to actually hold the mode button, and then after a couple seconds, you can switch the modes. But yeah, this seems super confident around the corners. And the bike seems super light. This bike might, I'm sure it doesn't weigh over like 500 pounds or something like that. Surely it can't weigh over 600 pounds. It's like a super light bike. Wow. Yeah, it's kind of hard to get used to the acceleration followed by the engine braking. All right, let's see. Going through the red rocks here, pretty awesome. So as far as my knees are on the tank, very comfortable. You could probably be 7 foot tall and this bike would still work for you. So they have a kind of an interesting whine to them, kind of an interesting sound. All you can hear is kind of the engine whine. As a matter of fact, I can't hear my bike hardly at all. I can hear the bike in front of me kind of whining out a little bit when he accelerates. Almost sounds like kind of like maybe like a turbo going up or something, like a revving up turbo. Yeah, the engine braking is a little bit hard to get used to, I'd say. Yeah, this bike, this bike's pretty wild. This guy's a little bit too close to me on the side here. I prefer not to be close, staggered on the road like this. Too far close. So let's see. I think it actually auto-canceled my blinkers because I forgot to cancel it. I looked down and it was off. So maybe after a certain amount of time it does auto-cancel your blinkers, maybe. But I know, like on Harley Davidson, it keeps the blinkers on until I think it senses like an angle sensor or something, where it'll wait until you get to a certain angle, then it'll shift them off. This one just seems like it times out. Oh, this will actually it's got so much acceleration it like takes your breath away. I think I could lift the front end off, just even in eco mode. I don't know if I want to shift to a different mode. So there's no buzziness in the handlebars at all on this one. No vibration unless you hit a bump. Like over those bumps, I can definitely feel them. I can feel all these bumps in the road, like that one, and that one, and that one, these little black snakes. Ugh. Yeah, I can definitely feel them. It seems like the suspension's not quite as good as the other SRS. But other than that, they're pretty close. One versus the other. Yeah, look at that. That's like all engine brake from rolling off the throttle. No braking at all. And the other thing that kind of freaks me out is we all pull up to the stop. Alright, so I want to try it. Street, sport. Sport mode. All right, we're gonna try sport mode.
Any questions?
Nope.
Is it everything you hope?
Okay. All right, so I'm gonna look at this front tire. I don't know, the front tire. Yeah, this is pretty wild. So we're all sitting here, we can actually talk without, you know, when I'm actually riding my Harley, I can't hear anything on my Harley. All right, here we go. So slow speed, not quite as stable as the SRS, which is pretty wild. I don't know what it is about the SRS, but if you want to go like 1 mile an hour, it seems like a lot more stable. Going really super slow. Other than that, like the walking speed, they're pretty much identical. This one and the SRS. This is the SRF on this one. So this is sport mode. We're in sport mode. A little bit of engine braking, but not the extreme. It slows me down, even going downhill, it slows me down with engine braking, but it doesn't like, it's maybe not as fatiguing on your hand, which is pretty wild. Alright, so I feel the raindrops. We might get drenched on this ride. I think this is the last ride, which is pretty wild. Alright. So it seems like not as whiny in sport mode. So it almost seems like we're not as seems smoother in sport mode. All right, so I tried the back brakes, and it's like you get on the brakes, and there's like nothing and nothing and nothing. You almost have to wait a minute. Wait a minute, where's my back brake? Oh. Yeah, back brakes. That takes something to get used to. So the other thing switching from to eco mode to sport mode is, wow, you really have to push on the back brakes. I mean, serious. It's almost like there's something wrong with the brakes. In econo mode, you don't need the brakes at all. Yeah, but it almost like it needs better back brakes. That's one thing. The front brakes are really good, but you grab the front and you really start diving, which is pretty wild. And the problem is switching back and forth, you know, in eco mode, you're used to all the engine braking from letting off the throttle, and you don't have it here. So it's almost like you're going from the brake in your throttle control to no brakes if you're trying to do back brakes only, which is kind of scary. Just takes a little bit more to get used to. The acceleration too is so fast. Alright, so we're gonna turn here. And I got to turn off the blinkers. Alright, back brakes. You know, maybe the back brakes don't work because no one's ever used them. Everyone's been in econo mode. You know, sometimes if you don't use the brakes for a long time, they'll actually kind of rust out the discs. And then the first few times you hit them, you don't hit anything because you're like wearing off the rust on your rotors, which is could be. It feels like I had a little bit better rear brakes when I stopped right there. That's one thing that I could see getting in an accident, going from econo to sport and then hitting the back brakes thinking that they're actually there and they're not as good as you thought they were. So that's kind of the one thing. So I did notice when I stopped on that one that I flipped up the pegs when I stopped, and the spring, they're actually spring-loaded pegs, which is amazing because then, you know, like on most of your bikes, when you actually lift up the pegs, they're not spring-loaded, they won't go back down. So a lot of times with mid-controls, I actually accidentally flip up the pegs, and then I have to kind of hunt for the pegs to try to flip them back down. And on this one, they're completely spring-loaded. As a matter of fact, I might actually, if I had a bike with mid-pegs, I would probably spring-load them like that. Wow, it's got some power. Completely silent. Other than kind of the whine from the bike in front of me, I hear more from the bike just to the left of me than any other bike, which is kind of interesting. Let's see around this corner here. I got to get used to the fact that, whoa, I kind of felt the front tire lifting up a little bit. It's like, whoa, yeah. The sport mode, you have to really be careful that you don't lift the front tire up. That's pretty wild. That's one thing once you start getting on really fast, super light bikes, is you can really get into a jam if you give it too much gas. A lot of people say you need really fine throttle control on some of those bikes so you don't actually lift up the front end. And it seems like you could potentially do it on this bike. Just lift up the front end, do like wheelies and not even think you're doing a, you know, not intending to do a wheelie. I could see you kind of flipping it up, which could kind of surprise you. And I think it really helps to have a pretty good suspension. You know, sometimes with the really bad suspension and you hit a bump, sometimes you can accidentally hit the throttle, which doesn't seem to be the case on this bike. It seems like it has an adequate suspension. I'd say even on this one, maybe better suspension on the front end and the rear than most of your cruisers. Maybe equivalent to some of your Harley-Davidson cruisers. This one might have a slightly better suspension than maybe the Lowrider S, which seemed pretty hard on the front. Yeah, I find myself wanting to go back into eco mode just because of the engine braking when I roll off the throttle. That will take your breath away right there. So yeah, so when you go back into sport mode from eco mode, it's like, all right, you have to use the front and the back brake. Yeah, you get used to it's almost like a different bike, different braking. One thing I can't get used to on a non-Harley bike is turning off the blinker every single time. That just seems really tedious, turning off the blinkers. Seems like something so simple should be standard on every bike, auto off blinkers. The other thing that's hard to get used to is no sound. Completely silent. Which is pretty wild. Completely different than your Harley Davidsons. Alright, this is the, let me turn my blinker off here. So this is the SRF bike from Zero, the 2021. I have never heard of Zero, which is pretty wild. I was like, is this a real thing? Zero motorcycles? And there's like no clutch, no shifter, no engine off. It's just, that's just it. And then you just kind of turn the power off, which is pretty wild. Oh yeah, and then one thing you don't want to forget, to open this up and get all your goodies out. I got my wallet, my cell phone in here, which I kind of like that as a little compartment there where you can keep some stuff. All right, let's see if I can get this kickstand down. All right, that's pretty awesome. So take a look at these, give you a closer look at this foot peg. Look at that spring-loaded foot pegs. That's pretty wild. So the top one's not spring-loaded, just the bottom. All right, guys, there you have it. That is the 2021 Zero SRF electric motorcycle. All right, guys, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.